So
Yeah.
I am super excited, guys, as you come in, just, type in hi, say hi, tell us where you're from. I'm super excited to have a guest today. And it's a topic I think you guys are going to be really interested in, and it has to do with essential oils. So I'm going to introduce you. Some of you already met Jodi because we've worked together on some other things. She just had a new book come out called
And tomorrow.
Essential Oils to Boost the Brain and Heal the Body. And I know, essential oils are one of those fun things, right? Like when we have to take more supplements and more pills to take and more potions and powders, but essential oils are like, it smells good, it's pleasant, and they have therapeutic value. And so Jodi is one of my favorite people to talk to about essential oils because she knows so much and she knows about how to help it to boost the nervous system. And she's had trials and tribulations in her life, let's just
Oh yeah.
say, that have, caused this to be a necessity, right?
Life is a roller coaster.
It is. It is. And you don't know what to expect, and you can't just like shut down, right? You can't just shut down. There's things that you need to do to help boost. So she's recently written this book. It's actually going to be released tomorrow. It's been in pre-release and it's already a bestseller. So it's
Yeah.
exciting. Yay, start shipping. I can't wait to get my copy. I ordered it a while ago, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
I love that.
Yeah, and I can't wait to have it because I love to have essential oil references because, it's one of those things that, you just want to know more about. It's like people think it's voodoo, some more
Yeah.
mainstream people,
Kind of
you
like
know.
this weird airy fairy. It's been dismissed, but what people don't realize is it's incredibly hard to get things into the brain. And oils are super small and fat soluble, so they can actually get
You can
into
actually,
the brain. And then they have a lot of the same constituents as flavonoids and phenols, so they can start to really help repair the cells, kind of clean off environmental toxins, and help basically return you to balance.
yeah. So we're here to talk to you about it. Jodi Cohen, meet the audience, meet the Facebook
Hello, audience.
audience, and
My
I'm
dog
seeing
is
us
like
there.
down here wanting to say hello. Riley, do you want to come say
And
hi?
I'm going to temporarily mute us
Okay.
while I find us on Facebook. It should have
Okay,
come here.
perfect.
Because if I don't, then we'll have an echo and I'll mute us and then I'll mute it on Facebook. I wish there was
Okay.
an easier way to do it, but there's not. So this is what
No,
I've learned to do.
I'm on board with you. I don't really know how to do that so well. Come
And
here,
they change
my dog.
my pages and they change things on it all the time. So, okay, we should be seeing you guys and type in the chat. And some of you who've met Jodi before and know of Jodi's work, she makes this great, she has this great company that makes essential oils. People are always asking me like, how do you know if these are real and if they're not cut with all kinds of garbage? And her
Yeah.
stuff is the real deal. And I love her parasympathetic blend because nobody else has something like that. And we all know about the vagus nerve and how that helps. So I'm going to hit this button. So I'm going to hit the mute.
Thank you. My dog wanted to participate.
Hi, dog. What's the dog's name?
This is Riley.
Hi, Riley. Okay, I'm going to do mute. I'm going to go like this. Click to expand, and then I hit mute here. Good. And now I can unmute us here so we can transmit. So let's see. Comment. We have a bunch of shares already, but comment if you're here and let me know that you're here. And let us know like if there's one thing you really want to make sure that we cover in our conversation today. So I know your book is about the brain and the body, but boosting the brain, we can't cover everything in one 45-minute Facebook Live. So I wanted to really focus on the brain today because people are struggling. I mean, so many people are struggling right now, especially, with all the depression going on and people's fears and anxieties. But in general, brain fog is common, focus is problem, memory, that whole stress anxiety thing. So I'd love to chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I mean, I think that's kind of my biggest aha is that we can't change our external circumstances. Like it used to really overwhelm me when people would say like, oh, you just need to reduce your stress, and I was married, I had children, I had a job, I had friends. I was like, what am I going to drop? And what I finally realized is everything outside of my life gets to stay the same. I just have found a way to kind of calm myself so that I better react, so that, it can be election night and I can have no idea what direction my future is going to go and I can still be calm.
Exactly, because you can't control it, right? And that's the thing that
Exactly.
people don't realize is that I tell this to my husband all the time. I love him, but he tends to get freaked out about stuff. And it's like
Yeah.
he just freaks out about things that he can't control. And they're like, if you can't control it, right here, it takes, meditate. He's doing that now. He's meditating. But meditation isn't always the easiest thing for those of us who are type A's to do, right?
Yeah,
That's,
I found two good things that I'd love to share.
yes, please.
Okay, so your basically the stress, there are a couple things that are in charge of stress in your body and your brain. One of them is your nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system controls your automatic functions, your
Mhm.
heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion, your detoxification, everything along those lines. It's designed to keep you alive. So it has different speeds, just like your car, right? You're able to accelerate, you're able to brake. So
Right.
when you think you're in danger, the acceleration is your fight or flight nervous system called your sympathetic nervous system. And that's not supposed to be kind of ongoing. You're supposed to like have either a real danger, someone's changing lanes, they don't see you, you honk, you slow down, you're good, you keep driving, and then you kind of recover. Or anticipatory stress, you're worried about things, but that tends to keep us stressed all the time.
The
And when we're
time.
prioritizing stress, different hormones are released. And then there's kind of the safety branch, which is parasympathetic. Here's what's cool. The on off switch between these two branches is the longest nerve in your body that most people have never heard of, the vagus nerve. And the way you shift gears is by activating the vagus nerve. It innervates, it starts at the base of the neck, is most accessible behind the earlobe right here, and then winds through heart, lungs, every organ of digestion and detoxification. Deep breathing shifts it. And there's this point right here. This is kind of my favorite. If you remember nothing else from this talk, remember this. There are acupuncture points here. You can rub with your fingers here. When I first got into oils, I was thinking, oh, I want to calm myself, lavender, chamomile, calming
Mhm.
oils. And right when I was starting my company in 2012, there was a research study out of New York. This New York neuroscientist named Kevin Tracy started surgically implanting pacemaker-like devices here to stimulate the vagus nerve. And this technique
Oh,
works so well that the FDA has approved it for epilepsy, depression, and migraines.
wow.
Stimulatory, I was like, stimulate. Oils can stimulate. Like I was thinking calm,
Oh,
but it's stimulate. And so I have a blend. I give the recipe in the book. It's clove and lime. But just applying this behind the earlobe, it's literally like you're biking. All of a sudden you realize it's hard going uphill. You shift gears, it's easy. You are
mhm.
stressed out, you're overwhelmed, your kid is asking for something and you are fighting the need to yell at them, and you just apply an oil here, you shift gears, and you're like, all right, what do you need? Because you kind of realize you can't have a tug of war if you don't pick up the
Right,
rope. Let's just, it's all
right.
good. This is my kid. I'm just gonna get a hold of my bad self and be
Yeah,
calm.
yeah, yeah. I love that because that's true. We go lavender and chamomile, and calm ourselves down. And
Yeah.
when I say to people we have to stimulate the vagus nerve, they're like, "Don't you mean calm it down?" No, the vagus nerve's job is to calm you down,
Yep.
but it's been deactivated. It's been, stamped out, and you've got to activate it, make it alive. And I
Yep.
wanted to say something you mentioned earlier, which is an important point, is this the stress hormones, right? And the stress hormones are like cortisol will get released when we are under stress. So if in the olden days it was an animal chasing you and you had to get away or you were going to be eaten for lunch, it was a quick burst, and then you got up the tree or you did something and slingshotted the animal and it went away, and now you're back to picking berries again. Short
Exactly.
term, it goes up and comes down again. Like you said, with the car driving along, you have to hit the brakes and you go, okay, done, right? Whereas the stress of the boss who's nagging you about stuff, the kid who's flunking out of school, the mom who's, in a nursing home and it keeps falling out.
Or just petrified of the world around her at the moment. Yeah.
Exactly. And those are stresses that keep going. And our bodies are not adapted for chronic stress, they're adapted for acute stress. So I
Exactly.
always tell people don't use this oil if you have a tiger chasing you. You know what I mean? Right? oh, okay. Or there's a robber coming up to you and you're about to, you go, oh, let me
The
just,
warning label,
no,
do not use when being chased by a tiger.
exactly. Put that warning on your bottles, right? Because it's going to defeat the body's purposes for keeping
Yeah.
you alive, right? But when you're like angry because your husband didn't take out the garbage again, or you're upset because your kid left his toys in the middle of the floor again, or whatever,
Or
that's
you
the time.
spotted something on social media that upset you. Yeah.
Yeah, which is all the time, right? It's constant, right? So those kind of stresses we need to deal with, right? So we're talking brain. So you have this whole book on the brain and the body. So tell us some things that essential oils can help with brain function, like things about memory, about focus. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. There's a whole branch of chiropractic called functional neurology that's really looking at the different parts of the brain, the different hemispheres of the brain. And like everything that we do in the body, it's looking for where is the imbalance and how do we kind of balance that out so that the brain can function optimally. So my favorite example is anxiety. So it's really interesting. There's, the autonomic nervous system that can cause stress. There's the hypothalamus, there's the amygdala, there's kind of all these fire alarms going off in the brain. And kind of the calm, cool, collected decision maker is your prefrontal cortex, your forehead. So a lot of these alarm measures kind of check in with the prefrontal cortex, like the amygdala, which is, basically when you smell something, it goes directly to the amygdala. The sense of smell preempts the other four senses and goes directly there because smell can keep us alive. We can smell water, we can smell food, we can smell predators. There's some interesting research. There's a Nobel laureate actually here in Seattle named Linda Buck, who did all this research on olfactory receptors for predator odor. And then she took it one step further, like what turns on your fear, what turns it off? It's roses. Stopping to smell the roses actually kind of calms your fear. There's validity to that phrase.
So it's
But,
not just a matter of stopping to smell
yeah,
them. That's
well,
smell
it is. I
too.
mean, like it is. It's kind of that pause, but then that sensory stimulation,
Yeah.
and how your nose is actually brain cells and goes directly to your forehead. To kind of anything you can do to smell stimulates your forehead. Certain oils like rosemary and peppermint, what they're really doing is kind of increasing blood flow because they're making they're dilating the vasculature so more blood gets in, which allows you to more fuel for your brain. But what's really interesting to me is that when you're having, I'm prone to anxiety. I'm kind of the poster child. So when I'm having an anxiety attack, that is my right frontal lobe. The right frontal lobe is more of the rumerator, the worrier. So that part is overactive. So the way to balance that out is to stimulate the left hemisphere, balance the brain, and then calm the anxiety. The easiest way to do that is to smell. It doesn't matter. It's any oil. It doesn't matter what oil. It could be, a tangerine peel, which is where the oils live. But you plug your right nostril, smell through the left nostril. It stimulates the left frontal lobe, balances the two hemispheres, and you feel. I'm prone to anxiety attacks. I have anxiety attacks in supermarket checkout lines, bizarrely. And I started carrying this. I never have to abandon the cart. And just like stresses are additive and cumulative, the more you kind of build this muscle memory, the less likely you are to
You're going to have it. I love that because so many people have issues with anxiety and
Oh
there's
yeah.
a lot of things to worry about in the world. There's a lot of dangers. There's a lot of predators that aren't really in the shapes of bears and tigers, but they're all around us in so many ways. And some of them are even invisible, like EMF fields and
Oh yeah.
toxins and all that stuff. And they're actually stressors to the body. So I love that we can do that. So you cover the right one.
Just think of left for liberate, liberate your anxiety, just smell through the left nostril.
Okay, that's good to know. The other thing for those of you who are geeky and know your neuroanatomy and all that, you say, well, but the left side of the body is controlled by the right hemisphere, but it's not the same in the face. So the face
Exactly.
it's the same. And once you get below, your
Yep.
right hand is controlled
Yeah.
by your left hemisphere of your brain. So just to, so people
I know,
aren't
and
going.
it's when you start looking at the anatomy, and I have diagrams in the book, like literally your left nostril goes through the cribriform plate, like it's almost like a direct access route. It's the most efficient way to really kind of turn on your ability to focus. And that's the other thing that's really interesting. So the amygdala, if you're walking and you kind of jump back and think you see a snake, then it checks in with the prefrontal cortex and it's like, no, that's a stick. You're safe. So the more you kind of calm your anxiety, which is your distractibility, you know, you're paralyzed because you don't know which way to go, the more it's easier to focus, it's easier to be productive, it's easier to kind of be present with your loved ones. It's just when you feel safe, you kind of show up as your best self.
Absolutely. And cortisol inhibits the prefrontal cortex and
Mhm.
activates the amygdala and the limbic system. So you
Exactly.
become the lizard, right? I just got to get out of here. I just got to get out of here. And you can't figure out that, oh, I have to press that button over here because you forget because this part of your brain isn't activated, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So we should all carry some sort of essential oil in
Yeah.
our bags with us wherever we go, whether it's our backpack, our briefcase, or whatever, pocket.
If
I
it's
have my yoga pants and shorts that have the little side type pockets. I could actually carry it in case I do see a snake on the trail when I'm out running. Good idea. So okay, so we have this anxiety. You talked about anxiety. I'd love to chat a little bit about sleep. Like how can we use essential oils for sleep? And I know there's tons of reasons people have trouble sleeping, whether it's cortisol elevations or, nutrient imbalances or blood sugar or a whole bunch of stuff. But are there specific ways to help somebody? I've heard of lavender on the feet and that sort of stuff. So can you give us a few tips with that?
Yeah, and I can dive down on kind of all the things you mentioned. So lavender is kind of quoted as the panacea, and it's a little bit like Benadryl. It either works or it doesn't. You
Mm.
know, like one time someone said, "Oh, you're going on a red eye. Give your son Benadryl. He'll sleep through the plane ride." Opposite effect. Which is like, right? I mean, I've never been so hated as on that plane ride, the longest 6 hours of my life. But lavender works best if you do it as part of an Epsom salt bath. So
Oh,
2 cups of Epsom salt, 1 cup of baking soda. Use the bathtub as a mixing bowl. So put the dry ingredients in first, add the lavender to the salt and kind of mix it in before adding the water. And there's,
essential oil of lavender, you're talking, or
yeah,
lavender.
lavender's good that way. And the more high altitude the lavender, the more relaxing it seems to be because, you know, the polyphenols are kind of what help protect the plant from the UV rays. So the higher the altitude, the more sun exposure and the more, you know, the good stuff
Oh,
that
I
they
didn't
get.
know that. That's really cool to know.
Yeah, yeah. So lavender is great as part of an Epsom salt bath before bed. And then I go into kind of 4 underlying root issues that can be compromising your sleep. One of them is high cortisol, which, you know, cortisol and melatonin have kind of an adverse relation. Yeah, it's like teeter totter. If cortisol is really high, melatonin is low because if the lion is chasing you, you don't want to fall asleep.
Exactly. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because you'll be dead. You'll be lying food. So the pineal gland is the part of the brain that releases melatonin. And it's interesting because there are certain like application points, like right above the ears is a really good application point. The skin is really thin. The pineal gland is in the exact center of the brain. So it kind of goes through the,
Apply essential oils there. Do you have
yeah.
diagrams of this stuff in the book?
I'm sorry?
Do you have diagrams of this stuff in your book that people
I
can?
have diagrams of everything. Yeah. So what I'm trying to do, I have a recipe. I give all the ingredients. If you don't want to pre-make it, sell it. But basically, it's a combination of oils that helps trigger the natural release of melatonin. And you put it above the ears, top of the head, back of the head. Early on, before I realized that I was a restless sleeper, I was trying to put it here. You don't want to put oil on your face before you go to bed
Oh,
because you get in your eyes.
in
It's
your
just a
eyes.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then if you have a blood sugar wake up, a hypoglycemic wake up at like 1 a.m. when you're wide awake and you could go clean the kitchen, that is your blood sugar dips too low, your adrenals release emergency fuel, cortisol or adrenaline, and then your pancreas has to release insulin to carry the sugar back into the cells. So anything you can do to support the pancreas can help you kind of feel more groggy more quickly. So we have a blend. Rose geranium is kind of the ananase seed are the 2 key ingredients, but it just helps the pancreas it tonifies the pancreas to give it more energy and vitality.
And so that'll keep the blood sugar more steady.
Yep, yep. And then if you're waking up at 3 a.m. and you're a little groggy, maybe using the bathroom, that is a detoxification wake up. So anything you can do to support the liver and the gallbladder, either before bed or during the night waking, is really helpful.
Awesome. That sounds
Yeah.
really good. Tawny said she already ordered the book. I just put the link in there where you
Oh,
can get
thank
actually
you.
the first chapter. So just go to her thing, or if you want to get the whole book, you just go to Amazon and order it that way.
Yeah, and if you go to boostthebrainbook.com/gift, you can download a bonus chapter for free. And then we have a bunch of book bonuses, like if you buy it, like free checklists, free videos, just a bunch of other fun things. Because
Yeah.
I find a lot of people are like, well, wait, I want more information. How do I, like, show me exactly where it is. I don't want to do this wrong.
Exactly, exactly. And knowing the blends too. So it's not like you're just wrote a book so you can sell oils. But a lot of people say, look, just give me the blend because you
Yep.
already know what the proportions are. But if you're given the recipe, you're welcome to do it that way too. And
Yeah. And I find people either like love oils, have a ton of oils, want to make it themselves. Great, here's the recipe. Or they're like, I'm worried I'm going to do it wrong. I'd rather just have you do it for me. So I try to meet them
exactly.
where they're at, no matter where that is.
Yeah, exactly. And Carol says rose is anti-pitta in Ayurveda. Do you know anything about that?
Hmm. That would make sense. I mean, I wasn't really looking at like Vata, Pitta, and Kafka so much for oils because I was really trying to find the common denominator. So I was looking at like what, stimulates the vagus nerve in everybody, what kind of balances the adrenal glands in everybody. And so, and the other thing that's interesting is that when you combine blends, like I started realizing all of the research is on blends. It's not on individual oils. And when you combine things, you get something different. Like the
Absolutely.
reason I picked clove and lime for parasympathetic, clove is super stimulatory, but on its own, the molecules aren't super small. So it takes about 30 minutes to get through the skin. Lime has incredibly small molecules. So when you combine them, it makes it more like an acupuncture needle, like a really quick hit
Oh,
into the skin. And even people, basically, if someone says I'm allergic to grapefruit, should I use grapefruit oil? I always err on the side of caution and say no. But the
reality. Yeah.
secret that I don't tell is that when it's in a blend, it changes. So it's possible it could, be fine, but I just don't. I would rather just say, it's like the kid. Can I ski down that, triple X chair? Maybe you won't die, but I'm gonna say no
I'm
because
gonna say
I'm.
no because I don't trust it. Yeah, so I'm just going to throw out another from a scientific perspective. The oil is not the part that you're allergic to. If you have allergies, if it's a true allergy, now this is the difference between allergy and sensitivity. If it's a true allergy to something, you're allergic to the protein part. Your body has a reaction to proteins. Your immune system attacks proteins. It doesn't attack these little tiny molecules of oil. Now, if you have a sensitivity to something in there, that's different. But a true allergy is only to the protein. And if you find yourself, oh, I'm allergic to olive oil, no, there's a sensitivity there, but you're not allergic to it. If you can eat olives, that's where the protein is. But when you extract it, example, my husband's deathly allergic to soybeans. Deathly, like he will have a little bit and it closes up his throat. He feels awful. Even so much as breathing it in, if somebody's just filled the soy flour bin at the health food store, but he can have soy sauce. He can eat tamari, he can eat soybean oil because there's no protein in there,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing to keep in mind with that. Yeah, Carol says she ordered the book.
Thanks, Carol.
Doshas and Ayurveda are not only related to constitutional types and tendencies, but also to acute or chronic conditions, which I think of as layers on top. Yeah, it's all very, there's a lot of complexity to the body, which we always try to simplify it. We humans try to
That's what
simplify
I was trying
everything.
to simplify because I was really trying to look at the common denominator. Like people are like,
Mhm.
oh, do you do oils for chakras? Well, think about the third chakra. You've got all of these different organ systems in there that have different energies. So what I was really trying to do, I originally started out when I was practicing thinking everyone was bio-individual. But then over time you start to notice these patterns and you start to notice that all of my patients seem to like lack sleep, be stressed, they're not so bad at mobilizing toxins and eating vegetables, but drainage, they don't focus on lymph. They're like fatigued and lacking energy, or they're more inflamed than they want to be. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, all of those issues lend themselves incredibly well to oils. So let's just kind of give you the exact protocols that seem to work for those 5 things. If you're losing your hair, I don't think that's oils. I think that's often thyroid and gallbladder. Like I'm very quick to say like I wouldn't start with oils. Like this is something else. But I
Right.
think for certain things, oils are really handy because they can both kind of get into the brain and help to rebalance the brain, or they can be applied topically on reflex points through the skin and help to balance the organ system.
Yeah, I love that. I love applying them to reflex points because it's so topical. You do have to make sure that you don't apply peppermint directly to your skin. You
Yeah.
might end up burning yourself, but you mix it with what, coconut oil or something like that.
Yeah, basically, if you ever have kind of that hot reaction, like it feels warm or it looks red, oil and water don't mix. So put whatever vegetable oil you have in your kitchen, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, and that will dilute it and make it better.
Right. And you can do that too with it so you can put like what, a drop of peppermint oil with some
Yeah.
number of drops of.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to oil pull with coconut oil and peppermint. It makes it taste kind of minty fresh. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I learned how to oil pull with castor oil from Marisol. You probably.
I like Marisol. Yeah. I like her castor oil in glass bottles.
Yeah.
Castor oil is like, it's funny, when I first learned to oil pull, someone suggested sesame oil and it didn't taste good. So I didn't want to keep it in my mouth that long. There's something about the coconut oil and peppermint or coconut oil and cinnamon. It tastes the way you think, like gum, or the way you think.
Right. Something you want to keep in your mouth.
So it doesn't feel as yucky to me.
Yeah. I kind of liked when she said that. I went, ooh, castor oil, but I kind of like the taste of it. So.
Oh, really?
Kind of weird. Yeah. And she said you only have to do 5 minutes instead of 20. So I'm like, okay, anything that saves time.
I've never done that. I'm going to try it.
Try it. It's worth it. And I know you're giving me the idea. Maybe I should put some peppermint oil or cinnamon oil in there.
Well, you know what's really interesting? Like I love castor oil. I think it's amazing for anti-inflammation. I love actually using castor oil as a carrier oil for the liver and gallbladder oils. But yeah, I hadn't really thought about, it's so thick,
It is thick. I don't like putting it on my skin because it's thick and it doesn't come off. And you're like sitting there trying to scrub it off with Dr. Bronner's extra strong peppermint soap, and it still doesn't come off.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, let's see. Tawny says she loves her parasympathetic plunge.
Thank you, Tawny.
Yeah. So the other things that people, depression, right? When people are feeling blue, I mean, you've had that your trials with that. And how do there's situational depression, right? Just things are going not your way. And then there's the chronic kind of depression because of neurotransmitter imbalances or whatever. So talk to us about using oils that way.
Yeah, the citrus oils are kind of fabulous for depression. And the ones that get the most play are like the neroli and the bergamot, which are more expensive. But honestly, orange is like the wonderful cheap man's affordable, and just smelling it, like there's a lot of research that depression is underactivity of the frontal lobe. So again, just the smelling of oils can really lift you up. Rose is really good for depression. My favorite application point is over the heart. That seems to, after Max died, I would kind of be overwhelmed. And to me, the emotions were physically painful. So I played with every application point on the body, and the heart is by far the most effective.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And is it something like that's an ongoing? So I think about like a situational depression, right? You're depressed over the death of a loved one, the loss of a job, whatever. But then depressed because of neurotransmitter imbalances on an ongoing basis. So with the situational, I could see, you get hit with grief, right? That's what happens with any kind of loss, whether it's job or person, whatever. And you get hit with the grief and you have your oil and you smell it and all that. But does it work that way for that more of a long-term chronic depression?
The way I think of oils is that they really move stagnation, and that can be physical stagnation, it can be mental focus stagnation, or it can be stuffed emotions. I think so many of us, we're kind of taught like, oh, big girls don't cry, or, stiff upper lip. This idea that you were kind of rewarded for not feeling, or we weren't really taught to process through our emotions. And I think so many of us, when we don't know what to do, we do nothing. So we just kind of stuff it down. So I think there is that element. My favorite is blue tansy. It's quite expensive, so I kind of combine it in oils, but I think there's a technique, Louise Hay kind of has that breathing through your emotions, but just, the act of breathing, like the lungs hold on to grief because it's hard to let go. So, the more you can layer techniques, like there are a lot of great breathing techniques. I know you know tons of them, but, layering in the oil and kind of when you smell something, like allowing yourself to kind
Mm,
of bathe in beauty and joy. And then when you exhale, allowing yourself to release whatever you're kind of ready to let go of so that you
mhm.
just move through it. I mean, what you were mentioning, there are obviously biological factors that underlie it, but I don't think, we don't work in isolation. It's not like we're just physical or just mental or just emotional. They all kind of play into each other.
Yeah.
Like I love Kelly Turner's Radical Remission, all these people that were kind of sent home to die from cancer who wound up making full recoveries. And what did they have in common? She lists 9 factors, only 3 of them are physical. So many of them are kind of mindset, and oil, just because it can get directly into the amygdala, the limbic system, the emotional center.
Right.
It's really like, I really think of a lot of oils as being like gear shifts. I'm a biker, so I think of it as a gear shift on a bike. You can think of it as changing gears in your car, but
Mhm.
it just helps you pivot.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And also, we know it's well known scientific fact that aromas stimulate emotion. And that's why you can walk in and you suddenly you're remembering
Yeah,
something or feeling something and you're like, why? And it's a smell. So it
yeah,
makes total sense to be able to use them to our advantage to stimulate emotions. But the other thing that you said that I think is super important is knowing we don't want to stuff emotions. The shifting gears is what I love. We don't want to stuff it because when you stuff it, it comes out back. If you're angry and you stuff it, it's going to come back later as maybe grief or emotion or sadness or helplessness sometimes. And so we don't want to go there. We want to express the emotions in positive ways that allow you to feel it, because really the only way to get it through it is to feel it, right?
yeah. But at the same time, it's like water's good, but you don't need to drink from the fire hose. Like just kind of little,
Well,
like I do that sometimes when I'm stuck. I think of like, where do I want to go? Like if I want to lose weight, okay, what can I do? Like for, like I'll try to plank for 2 minutes a day. It's only 2 minutes and it's like, all right, this is getting me in the right direction. So just inhaling for like 3 breaths. It's 3
right.
breaths. It's just one little thing that you can do to help pivot.
Right. And they're just small habits, and the small habits build up.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Let's see. Anybody else have questions or comments, or so anything you want to cover here that we're not covering? We're talking brain and powering up your brain. What about for like if you have to take a test or something where you want to get your brain like really accessing the prefrontal?
Yeah, well, I do 2 things for that because I mean, I wrote this book, like I wrote a chapter a week for 3 months. And one of the things that really helped me was, yes, smelling, especially peppermint and rosemary because they help vasodilate, or you can apply it. I give really specific reflex points on the forehead. But the other thing that I liked, I have a circulation blend that like black pepper is really known to kind of vasodilate. So I put it, if you're looking for reflex points, it's always in the divots. So if you feel
Hmm.
behind your head and just feel that little divot kind of in the cranium, that's a great place.
You
People
mean
who,
like where the head meets the neck on either
yeah,
side? Yeah.
in the back, like frankincense is a good one to apply there.
Mm.
Helichrysum, also expensive, or anything. I give a formula for a circulation blend that I think just kind of helps with the oxygen flow. So much of the reason that our hands and feet are cold is because they're distal extremities. Gravity is working against the blood flow from the heart to
Mhm.
get there. Your brain is the same way. So if you're not getting good oxygen flow, you're not necessarily performing at your best.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask another question. Quality of oils. So speak to that a little bit. Like, what do you have to do to be careful about the quality of oils you're getting? Are they really what they are? Are they diluted with some sort of, excipients or other kinds of things
Yeah.
that aren't so good for us?
It depends honestly on what plant it's derived from. I mean, I say try to buy organic if you can, but for anyone who's ever had an herb garden, it's not like, mint and basil and lavender. They grow, they're hard to kill. It's not like you need a ton of fertilizer. So those are usually fine. When I was looking at the research, it's usually jasmine that's kind of the
Hmm.
most, or rose, the expensive ones. But for the most part, buy organic when you can. Don't worry too much about it, and trust your sense of smell. I hear people say like, oh, if it smells revolting, you need it. I always think like, would you ever eat something that smelled revolting? No, trust, if you're craving chocolate, you need magnesium. If you're craving a hamburger, you probably need iron. Like, trust your intuition and what you're drawn to.
Yeah. And if it smells chemically, then
Yeah.
that I would not, that's
Oh,
not
no,
good.
like those candle stores and malls, I can't
Oh,
even walk by them because they smell so artificial. I think
yeah.
most people can tell that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely stuff like that. All right. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody questions? You guys
I
are
mean, talk
quiet
about
tonight.
drainage at all?
What's that? Drainage. Let's talk
Drainage.
about drainage. Yeah.
So one of the big bottlenecks I think in health is that you know garbage in, garbage out. So in order for the garbage to leave the body, it needs to go from the cell to the lymph to the blood to the liver, gallbladder, gut, toilet. And at any point, it can get pushed back into the blood, and then it kind of, you get low back pain and you go to the bathroom often because it's getting pushed out your kidneys, or you get kind of skin eruptions, it's pushed out of your skin. So the lymph is really something that can benefit from being supported. This is why, movement, any kind of walking, any movement, the lymph doesn't have its own pump. It drains mostly on the left side, 75%. So even if you're just giving yourself a little self massage under the clavicle, and the liver contributes to blood sugar. So if it's overwhelmed by toxins, like imagine kind of the Sisypharian example, it's just processed all these toxins, they dump into the gallbladder, and then somehow it gets reabsorbed into the gut. And now the liver has to start all over. It slacks a little bit on its other functions, of
Yeah.
converting sugar into glucose and glucose into fat, all of those things. So the more you can really support shepherding the toxins out of the body, the more you like lessen the load on the liver so it can do a better job with blood sugar.
Yeah. So how do you do that?
I have very specific oils for lymph and very specific application points. It's really like down the side of the neck. And when you talk about brain health, so much of brain health is really sleep, which is when the brain cleans house, the lymphatic system, and then the exit route. And the neck is the biggest bottleneck in the body. There's a lot going on. You've got kind of the structure, the muscles, the vasculature, the lymph, the nerves, and so they can all like think of the example I use is being in the middle row of an airplane between the two linebackers. And like, if you think of your arms as the toxins, like where are you going to put your, sometimes you wind up sitting like almost in, like, what are you going to do? You have no place to move. So you can't even maybe get up and, go to the bathroom. So the more you can kind of what oils really do, they do a number of things, but I think they really give kind of expansiveness and improve stagnation. And you can also combine them, the rooted plants kind of help to pull things down, the directionality of detox. So making sure that the lymph flows, it does flow in one direction, but that it actually kind of drains from the neck. And then you can support the liver, you can support the gallbladder, you can kind of make sure that you're shepherding the garbage out of the body.
What do you think of those like pillows with like rice and then they have essential oils in them for the neck? You can warm them up because it feels to me like that's a place where we all hold tension.
Yes.
If I feel like I'm nervous or tight about something, I'm grabbing my neck like this.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally true. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. Like whatever, if you like the rice pillows, that's fabulous. I joke that when people come to see me, I don't take away their coffee. Like if you have something that you're using that you absolutely love, keep it by all means. But it's just as effective. You can use castor oil on the neck that helps with inflammation. You can use mints are really good for dilation. I give tons of examples and details in the book, but
Great.
it's something most people aren't thinking of.
So for those of you just coming in, we're talking to Jodi Cohen. She's the author of the brand new best-selling book, Essential Oils to Boost the Brain and Heal the Body. And we've been talking today mostly about brain health, but other things come in because we are these comprehensive units that we can't just cut off and just talk about one part. So we've been talking about various oils. The book is coming out tomorrow. So if you pre-ordered it, you'll probably get it within a couple of days. Yay, I'm excited.
Amazon Prime, I think if you order it tonight, you will get it tomorrow.
You will get it tomorrow if you're Amazon Prime, right?
And
So that's exciting.
$15 right now.
Is it
Target reduced it and Amazon price matched it. So yeah.
Oh, how cool
Yeah.
is that? Yeah, it's well worth it. Totally worth it. And it's a good reference for essential oils for using. And apparently there's a lot of pictures in it. Oh, beautiful.
It's pretty, it was designed, it's funny because, I wrote it obviously before COVID. So we were thinking it would be like the gift book in like the spa or, the yoga studio. And then people stopped leaving their houses. So, oh well, but yeah, I really
Oh,
to
look
kind
at that.
of,
Yeah. So for those of you, the geeky ones among my audience, and there's a lot who love to know the whys, they love to know the pathways. Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah, I mean, it's funny. There were a lot of things that I had to create. Like I really actually have a whole like where to apply on your head.
Oh,
Uh,
beautiful.
Random House didn't like me so much because I was pretty particular about the graphics, but there's some that we just don't know about. Or the other thing that I think is really interesting, like you can use oils to kind of balance the different hemispheres of the brain. Like most people, Max actually was very left hemisphere dominant, and it's amazing you learn things and retroactively you're like, oh, that would have been so great to help him, you know?
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the neck one. I didn't love it as much. They didn't do as good of a job of capturing the lymph nodes as I wanted, but
No,
whatever.
it's good because you see the points. And so
Yeah.
it's, if you can, I just put a link in there if you want to check out the first chapter, one of the chapters, it's a sample
Yeah,
chapter,
it's a
and
bonus chapter.
get that and go to the site, and then you'll get more. So
Yep, exactly. Thank
get
you
it
for
on
inviting
Amazon.
me into your little Facebook community. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I'm excited. You're always a pleasure to talk to, and you're one of the few people I can geek out about vagus nerve and
Oh,
parasympathetic sympathetic dominance. And my audience has heard me talk about that a lot. Um,
well, I love that you do because a lot of people with blood sugar, they don't go into that. Like they don't, it's like, if you can kind of get to the root cause, if you can fix the leak on the ceiling, you don't need all the pans on the floor.
no kidding, right? Then that's what we're about, right?
Yeah,
We don't want to clean up the mess. We want to prevent the mess.
exactly, exactly. And I feel like it's the root of a lot of unnecessary cortisol, surge in the body.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So if we can get and if it's a simple thing, I know there's a lot of vagus nerve techniques to stimulate, and they involve sticking tongue depressors down your
Yeah,
throat and
it
screaming at the
compliance
top of
is
your
like
lungs,
zero.
and these things that are not very comfortable, but putting on an essential oil on some of these points, or
Yeah.
breathing through one side of your nose with a,
It's like literally flip this, boom, done. You
yeah.
know, do it to your kids, much easier than trying to get them to eat kale. You know,
My kids loved kale, by the way. They always ate kale.
my kids love kale chips. They would
Oh
eat
yeah,
that.
kale chips. They would eat like 10 heads of kale in one sitting. I had to
Yeah,
watch
that
that.
was kind of the winning formula. But like getting them to take supplements, they didn't swallow pills. They
Oh
used,
no, mine hated. Yeah, they wouldn't do that. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So the essential oils, they've done a lot of. My one son I got him a diffuser, and he used to put some calming oils to get him to sleep because he was a GABA kid, and or a low GABA kid. And he would love it. And he used to he actually ruined part of the door handle in his car because he was carrying an essential oil bottle, and the lid came off. And they're strong, and it kind of
are.
destroyed the vinyl on this car.
Oh wow. My Max he used to love to draw with Sharpie, so we'd have Sharpie on everything. Lemon oil gets Sharpie off of anything.
Woohoo! I wish I knew that when he was 3, because he made a track around the island in the kitchen with the Sharpie with his friend, and they were showing me like, look, we have a railroad tracker. Oh, it's Sharpie.
Oh, I know. I
Oh,
know.
that's
What
good
is
to
it, like
know.
messy house, happy kids or something like that?
Oh yeah, that we had very happy kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So guys, thanks for being here. Yes, Carol's another geek there. Yeah. So get the book, because the book is going to have a lot of those pictures that you just that Jodi
Pictures,
showed.
the recipes. It's really, I mean, it's designed in two parts, kind of like the inner geek so that we all understand what we're doing. And then just here are the recipes, here's the specific application point. So it speaks to everyone. If you
Yeah.
just want, like, I'd rather just buy the recipe and make it myself, you're good to go. If you want to understand like what's going on and why oils work, I have that too.
perfect. Yeah, speaking our language. So thank you so much, Jodi, and good luck with the book coming out tomorrow. Everybody go out and buy the book. I think it'll be awesome. It's a $15 well spent. I should be getting mine tomorrow because I think I ordered it like whenever, a long time ago.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
I hope to see you in person sometime soon. It's been way too
So
long.
I hope so. I know it's been well over a year.
No,
I haven't left the neighborhood in over a year. So
I don't think you're alone. Yeah.
yeah, I'm really lucky though. We have a waterfall and we have all kinds of hiking trails in the neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
So I just go out every day and I go hiking a different trail and it's enjoyable and I don't have to get in my car. I wonder if I even remember how to drive. It's been a year since I've driven a car, over a year. I think the last time I drove was back in the beginning of February last year. Haven't driven.
I went to a doctor's appointment today and it was a half an hour each way. And I'm like, so like it's been so long since I've driven.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, my poor teeth need a dental cleaning and I haven't done that. So
No, I hear that. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's
yeah,
always good to see you.
it's always fun to talk to you. And thank you so much for sharing your wonderful, wonderful insights.
No, it's fabulous. Thank you so
All right,
much.
guys. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm going to shut the Facebook Live down. And
Okay, awesome.
guys, have a good one. Bye. They said thank you.
Oh, thank you.